Alright, Algebra 1, so we have a nice loud video today. I'm recording at school before I go home. Lesson 3-7, Slope and Intercepts in Context. Today's date is Thursday, October 17th, 2019. So our objective today is to interpret problems and graphs to determine the meaning of the slope, x-intercept, and y-intercept. So my overarching hint for you guys is as follows. Intercepts will always be an amount, and slope will always be a fraction or a ratio, whatever you prefer. I like the word ratio. If you like the word fraction, you can maybe squeeze it in there, which means my key words that I should be looking for are per and each. Whenever you see per or each, you are definitely talking about slope whenever we're talking about lines, which is our entire unit. So, the only way that you can really learn these, you might notice there's a lack of knowledge here, just a lot of examples. The only way to teach these is just by letting you do examples. So I'm sorry, it is one of those hard problems. You will make lots of mistakes. Hopefully you are going to learn from them. So let's do a few of Mr. Sindel's examples that I've made. So in example 1, we have Ugo. He graphed the relationship between his cell phone battery and the percentage of his cell phone, or the phone. So example 1, Ugo graphed the relationship between his cell phone battery percentage and the time since he plugged in his phone. So here we can see the graph. It seems to be going up. We have a positive slope here. Which feature of the graph represents how charged Ugo's phone was as he plugged in his phone? So right before he plugged in his phone, right at the very second, how much percent battery did he have? Is it the slope, the x-intercept, or the y-intercept? So half the problems are kind of like this, where you just have to choose slope, x-intercept, or y-intercept. And then the other half are harder problems, like more interpretation. So I only give one example like this. Do you see the keywords per or each when I read this problem? No, you did not see that, because you were asked which represents how charged his phone was. How charged is an amount. What percent was he at? So if you're at an amount, you have immediately limited it to not slope. It still could be none of the above, but it's definitely not slope. So the x-intercept should be in units of minutes, and then the y-intercept should be units in percentage. So we're talking about what percent his phone was at, how charged was it, what percent it was, what the battery. So I'm talking about the y-axis, and this is indeed the y-intercept. And just interpreting the graph a little bit more. So what's happening in this graph is he plugs in his phone at 0 minutes. His phone, Ugo, your phone is at 25%, and then after 10 minutes, your phone is at 45%. After 20 minutes, your phone is at 65%, and so on until it hits 100% after, like, I don't know, 36.33, 36.66 repeating minutes, whatever it is. That's what's going on in this graph. So there's no x-intercept. The slope is the speed at which your phone is charging. So if this question changed to which feature on the graph represents how fast his phone is charging per minute or something like that. And, oh, you see the word per or each minute, then I should be thinking slope. So that's how to think about that. Let me erase a bunch of these circles and lines. The correct answer is indeed the y-intercept. Let's move on to example 2. Haziel and Esha. So you two are printing out long essays for Miss Taylor now. So it's going to go Haziel, he's printing out his essay, then Esha is going to print out her essay. So Esha is going to graph the total number of pages of her essay printed and how long it takes to print. So we can see on this graph that the y-axis here is the pages of Esha's essay, and the x-axis is minutes since Haziel started printing. If it was minutes since Esha started printing, we would have started all the way back here. But we had to wait for Haziel to start printing. So that's what's happening in this graph. So I'm asking you, what does the x-intercept represent? The x-intercept. So the x-intercept, we should be thinking some sort of minutes since Haziel started printing. So the units down here are really going to help us. So how many pages were printed each second? Ooh, I see the word each. Is that one of the things I have up here? Ooh, each. This is a slope. If it asked what does the slope represent, it would have been A, but it's asking about x-intercept. So B, how long it took for Haziel's essay to print. Well, I mean, the units are correct there. So it's minutes and how long it took. So those two seem to match up. Let me uncircle some things. So it could be B, and let's think about that. So what's happening in this graph is Esha is waiting and waiting because Haziel's essay is so long, and then finally, we don't even know how many pages Haziel's essay was, but we know at 15 seconds, then Esha's essay starts printing out. So she had to wait 15 seconds. She was in the queue behind Haziel and immediately starts printing. So Haziel did take 15 seconds to finish printing his essay. The correct answer is B. I want to go on to C and D and talk about why it's not them. Well, it's not D, obviously, because it's B. But C, the number of pages of Haziel's essay, that would have been on the y-axis. So if I had a y-intercept, that would have been the number of pages because that matches with the units up here, the pages. All right. And that doesn't even match because this is Haziel's essay, and this is not her essay. Or not his essay, it's her. All right, on to number 3. So, Kira is practicing her 400-meter dash, and Jade is timing her. For those of you that don't know, 400 meters is a quarter of a mile, almost exactly, because 1,600 meters is very, very close to a mile. It's like 0.99 miles. So Kira is running towards Jade at a constant rate. The distance that Kira is in front of Jade in relation to time is graphed below. Negative distance is the distance behind Jade, since the positive distance is in front of Jade. So that makes sense so far. So let's go ahead and read here. What does the slope represent in the context? So we finally have a slope question. Before we've had x-intercepts, y-intercepts. Now we really need to pay attention to slope. So we should be looking for these keywords per and each. So coming back down here, I probably can just circle per and each. No per each, no per each, no per each. Per second, it's probably D. So I'm going to circle D preemptively, and let's go ahead and talk about why it is D. I'm pretty sure it is D since I made this problem and all. So to do this problem, let's interpret the graph. Here at 400 meters, that is your starting location. That is, obviously the starting location even tells us in the problem. So that is how many meters Kira is running. That is the y-intercept here. So let me uncircle 400. That is the y-intercept. The distance where Kira passes Jade, well, you pass her at 0 meters because you are passing her and you're 0 meters away from here. So that's kind of a weird way to ask that. So that is 0 meters all the way over here. This right here is the point at which you pass Jade, Kira. So the distance that you pass Jade, the time that you pass Jade, because down here it's seconds. So the time that you pass Jade is 60 seconds, which means you have run 400 meters in 60 seconds. And again, since 400 meters is a quarter mile, you've done that in a minute. This is the equivalent of a 4-minute mile pace, a crazy fast pace. Good job, Kira. So the time that Kira passes Jade, that is the x-intercept. This doesn't really have a meaning right here. The distance where Kira passes Jade, that distance is 0. This point right here corresponds to a distance of 0. The meters, 0 meters from Jade, right? So that doesn't really have any meaning, but it's definitely not B, it's definitely not A, and it's definitely not C because that's the x-intercept. It is indeed D, just because we saw the word per. And it's Kira's speed. Whenever you see a speed or velocity type of thing, that should also be some sort of slope. So speed, you can underline that. That means slope. Other things that might mean slope, velocity. Velocity is kind of like another word for speed. It just has direction included in its definition. But yeah, so we have examples 1 through 3. If you guys have questions, just try working together. You guys are doing awesome. Please report to the sub, like so-and-so is helping so-and-so, and hopefully he'll log it. If he doesn't understand the class craft, or she, it might not be the same guy that I'm having, just make sure that they log it, right? All right, so that concludes the lesson. Good luck on Khan Academy.